I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Clark County Board of Education. Purposes of this meeting is to look at the second half of the school achievement reports. I'd like to have everyone stand and observe a moment of silence. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, so I'd like everyone to reflect during the moment of silence upon the military service that many members of our community and our nation have given for us. Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item of business is adoption of the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Motion by Ms. Hicks.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Parado. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Anyone sign in for public comments? Okay. All right. I'd like to officially welcome Mr. Parado as an elected official. Won election for District 3 last week, and he'll get the pleasure of doing this all over again next year with you and the board members.
Exactly.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
Next up is item number 2, internal board business. Consider approval of contract for legal services with Fowler Bell. I emailed this out to all of you, I believe, yesterday, and it's also posted with the rest of the documents. Any questions? This is basically this is the same agreement that Maria's gotten, more or less. So.
Did we have an attorney review it?
No.
But they sent this, but they didn't specify who was going to be our contact.
Right, that would be for us to decide. Actually, when they interviewed, they said if Mr. Colson was going to be our attorney, it would be $150 an hour because he is a member, and Ms. Combs, as an associate, would be $130 an hour. So that's something we as a board would have to decide.
Okay, so we don't get both, either
Get
or.
what you pay for.
Okay.
So if you
Okay.
want either or, that's. I can certainly see some meetings where having Mr. Colson's expertise speak here would be good. Facilities hearing that night probably would want a member attorney, those sorts of things. But that's up to us to decide. So.
And I guess the other question is, we were going to just do a year. They said November to November.
Right.
Okay. So.
I didn't see anything about evergreen. There's no evergreen clause in here that I saw. There was one I didn't see one. So, an evergreen is something that would renew year after year without signature. So this is something that would come up annually. So we'd have to add this to the lengthy list of things that our district does and contracts that our district renews every year on an annual basis. So I thought otherwise the contract was reasonably straightforward. So. Any legal opinions out in the audience? Okay. I guess first piece would be to approve the contract. Any other discussion on that? If not, a motion would be in order to consider approval of contract for legal services with Fowler Bell as presented. And the effective date would be today's date.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the contract for legal services with the effective date being today with Fowler Bell.
Motion by Dr. Griffith.
Second.
Second by Ms. Hicks. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next question would be, who would you like to represent us? I'm open for discussion on that. I was fine with Ms. Combs. I think she interviewed well. We know her mom. Her mom works for KSBA and is an excellent attorney. How long has Teresa been there? Long time, as long as I've been doing this. Judy, you would know.
During much of my service.
All right. So.
15 years plus.
That's up to you all to decide.
I really don't have a feeling one way or the other. I talked to both of them, so I don't know.
I'm comfortable with either one. So.
Yeah.
As I know.
Okay.
Myself, the same one.
Okay.
Well, since, her name is on there, has she been more
I emailed both
Okay.
Ms.
I was
Combs
gonna
and
say.
Mr. Colson. So she solicitor responded, so I'm fine with her, and we can call for help if we need it.
Okay. That sounds fine.
Okay, I'll email her back. We'll sign this document and then mail to her. And the expectation that would be, what I could do is I could get her a list of the regular meetings this coming year, which we would need her attendance at. And then we'll probably need her attendance at the organizational meeting next year. And that way we can, once we go through the schedule to figure out which meetings are what and where, we can let her know which ones she should be at, which ones we don't need her attendance at. So, okay.
But she'll come to like our next week's meeting?
When we interviewed her, I think, and that was the setup that they had with Berea was, the expectation was that they come to the regular monthly meetings. So I would certainly agree with that. Something like tonight's meeting, if there wasn't this item on there, not really any reason for an attorney to be here. So, and there's other things, other meetings that we have that an attorney would not need to be present. So, okay. All right. Next up is student achievement reports. First up is Concord Elementary School. Welcome, Ms. Hoffman.
I didn't get the memo about purple. I apologize. Me either.
It was clean and didn't need to be ironed, so,
I got a little bit of lunch on me, so I'm okay. Okay. Since I'm first up tonight, thank you all. First of all, Concord Elementary School was a new year last year. We had lots of struggles being in a new building. And I'm sure this is, you all are well aware of, we didn't have the doors open to get into the school until the second week of July when they started moving in furnitures. Office space, rooms were not ready for teachers to get in and start working until probably 3 weeks before school started. And at that time, we were still trying to find desks for rooms and tables and filing cabinets and things that we needed, and trying to find the best use of the space in the building. Started out the year, and I guess it's kind of the things that GRC went through. We didn't have kids. They didn't know where the cafeteria was. They didn't know where bathrooms were. They didn't know where a lot of things were in the building. We didn't have bleachers until after our Title I night. So there were a lot of struggles and a lot of growing pains getting into a new building. Plus, I'm new to the district. There were a lot of staff in the building. That's maybe a positive sometime. I had an unbiased opinion about all teachers in the building. And I explained to them at the beginning that evidence of quality teaching would be evident in student performance. And we tracked that all throughout the year. So I'm going to start leading you all through this. Our gaps, of course, are African American, Hispanic, disabilities, free and reduced. Free and reduced population is about 72%. So that is really our main target for closing the achievement gap at our school. If we address the free and reduced population, all of those other groups fall into the free and reduced category for our students in our school. We have maybe 2 kids that qualify, 2 or 3 that qualify for disabilities that are not free and reduced students in our building, but the majority of those are. Our mission statement, we have there in our visions. I apologize, I wasn't at the last meeting, so I don't know how in-depth they went with this, but I'm not going to read things to you that you all have probably already looked at. We're going to go to strategies. Tier interventions. RTI at our school, I can tell you that we did not get a grasp on interventions until January. I'll have Sherry. Sherry is, I come from a high school background, and tier interventions and strategies for kids is Sherry's expertise. That's the reason that when questions come up on what do I do now, what do I do here, we both will discuss those, but I take the advice from Ms. Browning because she has been in the elementary school for a number of years. Year 20. Yeah. So you want to kind of explain the tier intervention process and where we were last year and maybe changes for this year?
Well, I mean, where we were last year was pretty much probably where every school was. We didn't know our kids real well, and so that was a struggle. And with everything else and all the other transitions, I think it just took us longer than any of us would have liked before we started getting into data and using MAP. Different kids came with different records, things, sometimes you had the information and sometimes you didn't. So it took us that long to kind of get into our own assessing of kids. This year, we've started off, even though we ended the year, we found a lot of teachers, there wasn't consistency in what teachers knew how to do as far as assessing kids on guided reading level, fluency, and those kinds of things, which are your data points that you want to use when you're talking about kids and not just use one thing. So I think we're doing that much better this year. We started off the year. We have assessed all of our kids, so we feel like we know exactly where they are with certain data points, which has enabled us to much better group kids. We already have RTI groups going, our carryover from last year. We've continued with that. We meet every month. Teachers are doing a better job of coming with data and doing the progress monitoring. So we think we're off to a much better start. Having 2 awesome interventionists in the building helps that tremendously, because they are also people with expertise that teachers can go to and help with kids and all of that. So I think we're doing it better. Our teachers are doing flex groups using that data as well, and we're even teachers become RTI interventionists within the classroom, because we're trying to get as many kids into those small groups as we can.
Our data showed last year that our reading scores were a little bit lower than our math. Well, we had a full math interventionist that was there full time. She's there 5 days a week. She's there for the whole school day. So we discussed ways, if our reading scores were low, how could we have an impact on that? And that's when we decided to go ahead and hire a full-time reading interventionist for this year. So we have 1 full-time reading interventionist, 1 full-time math interventionist, and then we have a 400-day interventionist that work 3 days a week. And I think, too, we're more focused this year than last year. Last year, we assumed that the interventionists had targeted skills that they were working on in small group. And sometimes that wasn't the case. They were doing what had been done before, which is some small group tutoring. That we couldn't have that. They had to be working on skills. So I think that we're more focused this year. We sat around and discussed, this group needs this skill, this group needs to be working on this. So those are some things that we've done with our tier intervention. With a school with 72% free and reduced, you have to look at RTI is how you're going to impact student achievement. We just can't hope that our classroom teachers are going to have a huge effect on that. We have class sizes that have second grade's got 28 in a class. So we have to figure out how these interventionists can be very specific in what they're working with these kids in the group. They have to monitor it often, and then figure out what kids are ready to move out and what new kids are ready to move in. Okay?
So how do we know when an intervention has worked? How do they know? Is there an assessment before when the kids move out? How often do those assessments occur?
Math,
2 to 4 weeks. I mean, your intervention has to run, it's generally for RTIs 4 to 6 weeks to know whether it's effective. But depending on whether you're tier 2 or tier 3, it has to occur more often as far as your progress monitoring, whereas tier 2, you can probably do it every couple of weeks. But we have a monthly meeting, and that data comes, the teacher has done it or the interventionist. And we've actually, last month, we had some kids that went from tier 3 back to tier 2. We had some that went from tier 2 back to tier 1, and of course we had some that now that we know better or have moved in that we have pulled into that. So it's a changing monthly list, and we're more intentional about.
I have the same questions you do. Our math interventionist, she's kind of stubborn like me, and we butt heads a lot, but I ask her questions like, so we have a kid in tier 2, and you have assessed them with, she has a document that she uses with SNAP, which is an assessment she uses, and she says, okay, they're ready to go out. And I'm like, well, I don't think they are, but I need to put faith in her that she, and I said, well, can we keep them in for another 4 weeks? And she'll say, no, I've got somebody else I need to work with. So it is a process that if they come out of tier 2 and go back into tier 1, if they show up on the MAP assessment or a topic test, that they don't, if they score a 60 on like whatever we were doing in intervention, if it was working, they're out in the regular classroom, it's not, let's put them back in. The math interventionists work on specific skills. The reading intervention are things that are continually comprehension and things like that that are a little bit more long range. So we have a lot of good question comments on what specifically are you working on and how do you know when they are ready to come out. Okay. ESS daytime waiver this year, we've got a classified staff member that's helping us, and she's doing some interventions with students. We found out, and some of this is on down through here, that our computer lab time is very limited. We had one computer lab last year and 30 mini iPads maybe. Well, you distribute that between 23 teachers, there wasn't a lot of iPads to go around. And the computer lab time, there's 10 months in a school year. A month and a half is what it takes to get math testing done. So that's a lot of time that our kids are not in there in programs that are research-based to improve reading, like Lexia Core 5. Lexia Core 5, I think Shear's using it, and it's the feeder into Reading Plus that they have at Campbell and at GRC. So we went ahead this year and decided to purchase 60 mini iPads. I did 30 at the beginning of the year, and the teachers were driving me crazy. They said, we want more, more, more. So I bought carts, and we got another 30. So I have 60 mini iPads. Actually, we have one downstairs and one upstairs. They have a schedule. And another technology thing is that the lab was upstairs, and kindergarten kids, when they go into the lab, they have to put in their username for the district to log into the internet, and then they had to do Lexia. Well, kindergarten kids don't know what a K and a L are. So they were spending 30 minutes of their lab time trying to log onto the computer, and I talked to Mike about it, and he said, well, if you have mini iPads, they just click on the app and they're ready to go. I said, let's just do mini iPads for everybody. So I went ahead and purchased those, and that's, the teachers are loving it. I had a special ed teacher that told me that they had a kid who's a 4th grader this year, that he never could find out anything the kid liked to read. And he says that Lexia is the reason now the kid likes to read, because he wants to come in, get his iPad, sit in the corner, and read. So it's beneficial. I'm not big on programs. I think people are the #1 way to get kids to improve. But we're living in an age of technology. When kids go home every day and they play on iPads and games and things like that, there are programs that are research-based that are leveled for kids that have game-like activities that have them learn. So ask me at the end of the year or next year at this time whether I think that it has a true impact on learning. We're going to see. We bought into Lexia Core 5 and we got it for a year, and I told them I just want it for a year, and I'll let you know after that whether we're going to continue. We have athletics. We have grade level PLC meetings that are meeting the first 3 weeks of the month. They meet with just plain PLC type work. They share what they're doing the next week for reading plans, math plans. The last meeting of the month is always focused on RTI. That's when we have our school psychologists there, our SPED teachers, all of our team people, and all of our interventionists. It's a large meeting at that time to discuss kids. Of course, we were part of the district professional development for the new journeys. We have a devoted hour and a half of reading and math instruction a day. We're doing flex groups during small group instruction time. I think everything else I know. We have a new program called Watchdogs. We have dads that come in and volunteer in the school. They help open doors in the morning and help in the cafeteria. The kids really like it, especially the kids whose dad it is. We have CHAMP, school-wide professional development. I also have a lead teacher team. It's on throughout here that teachers apply to, and it's one lead teacher per grade level. It kind of serves two purposes. I try to provide them with professional development on leadership, kind of a lot of things we do at the district level. We meet the third Thursday of the month at 7 a.m. for that meeting that I lead. Then they are required to do professional readings. We're doing the book that you all, whatever it takes, the district started on last year. They're reporting out on that, plus my math interventionist and my reading interventionist lead two of those groups and talk about and strategies they can take back to the grade level teams and use in the classroom. Those are on the second Thursday of the month in the afternoon from 3:30 to 4:30. And then I call them every once in a while. They're my go-to group when I have questions on will this work or will this not work. And they help with schedules of events coming up we have within the school. Any other questions? I've covered a lot of this. I will talk in ramble.
I have one that,
Program review. Ask me about program review.
Yeah.
That's a big concern.
this could be a program review or a
Okay.
program something else. If I walk, or when I walk into a classroom in your building, what will be different than when I walked into a classroom last year? What will I do?
Well, I would like to say quality instruction because I had 6 new class teachers this year. You don't complain about what you're given, and what I was given I had to work with. And I worked with what I had. This year, I was able to get diamond light teachers in my building. Now, I don't want to say who is and who didn't. I have the median student growth goal, which shows the teachers that I had in my building last year, which ones were able to move kids to 30% or better to have an expected growth. And I can tell you, I have moved people in 3rd and 4th grade, and I think this year's going to be totally different. Because the people were uncomfortable last year when I collected my data, and it had teacher A, teacher B, teacher C, and teacher D, and it had their MAP data from fall, winter, and spring, and it had how many proficient distinguished kids they had at each one of those things. And it made people very uncomfortable. That's just the way it is. That's the way you have to look at data. People that did not like that, some left, some are still here, and some of them were moved. So that was the only thing that I could do to address that. That I had to make sure I had the best quality teachers at my school that I could get. So that's the difference, I guess. When you come into the classroom, you're going to see dynamite teaching. Okay? Now you want to talk about program review?
I'll listen on program review.
Okay. Program review really affected our score. And I can tell you going in, I told my teachers, I said, I want you to be perfectly honest. We do know that the KDE did a audit of several schools and looked at 80% of those were overinflating their scores on the program review. I told my teachers, if you have evidence of it, you can score yourselves, but if you don't, you have to tell it like it is. We did not start really working on, because I was still working on how to do Thanksgiving and pilgrims and all of that in my school, because they wanted to have parents come in and eat Thanksgiving dinner. We didn't have the room to accommodate a lot of the things, so it's my fault. We did not really get to work on program review until they called and said, let's work on program review, which is probably around January and February. And that process works as you send emails out. If you have this, send it to you. We're going to put it on a wiki, and then we're going to write our program review and score it. At that time, there are things that you say, uh-oh, we don't have that. You can't go back in February and make it up at that time. It's already gone and passed. So, after program review, which was not good, at this year we decided to have a systematic process of collecting evidence. So every week in a PLC meeting at the beginning, the very first thing they do is they have program review work, and they talk about, are we doing anything next week with drama? Are we doing anything with art? Are we doing anything with music in the regular classroom setting, not what's going on out here in related arts? They submit that to the program review team leaders, and they start collecting that as evidence. So We started our program review work in August of this year. We have implemented a ton of things that I think will probably score us as high as we can be scored across the board this year. So we knew program review really killed us this year, and one of those examples was the writing policy. We had to make all brand new policies. We're a brand new school. So I didn't notice that one. I had my 10 required policies and I didn't have a writing one. Well, in February, by the time you go through the process of writing it, submit it into the council, have a first and second reading, we just had a score we didn't have one. And that was a 0. So we knew that we just messed up there. So we're fixing it. Okay? Title I night, this past fall, we had over 300 people there. It was great. We had one of the strengths. Anybody have any questions on our closing achievement gap? These things I have talked about, the interventionist, mini iPads, mathletics, dyslexia, full-time reading interventionists. I'm talking about things we're doing now. Okay? This year, last year we had one club. We had a chorus after school. I set a challenge out for my teachers we had chess club last year. Our numbers in our after-school programs, I think, affects our attendance at our school. Kids come to school if they know they have clogging practice. Kids come to school if they know they have drama practice. So this year, we have chess club that has over 40 members that meets on Friday. That's K through 4. Clogging club has over 60 members. We had so many kids in clogging, they had to divide up to 2 groups. K through 2 meets on one night, and 3 and 4 meets on Friday nights. They're going to be clogging in the Christmas parade too. The chorus is 3rd and 4th grade and has 45 members. Our drama club has over 50 members, and they're divided into K through 2, 3 and 4. They're doing the Polar Express this year for Christmas, and they're going to have music involved with it. Jackie Estes is doing that. She's stepped up to do that. We have a book club, and the book club has over 50, and it's a parent involvement component. Last year, I decided not to do accelerated reader, but I told them I would like to start a reading club that focused on books where parents read or kids read with their parents. Then they have to come back once a week and they have discussions after school. It was a give and take. We had kids that weren't doing accelerated reader, and to be honest, I think it made them dislike reading because they had to do stuff that they didn't like. So I told them, I says, here's what it is. I want you to promote the book club. I want the kids to be reading to their parents at home. And it was a parent involvement. She's got them t-shirts. We have 60 parents. They have 2 different groups. They have a K through 2 and a 3 and 4. And the kids that are in that, we bought them the books so they get to have a library at home. And when they get done, they end up with 5 books of their very own. So that's how many books they're doing a year. And they're pretty good sized books. Okay, so that was the give and take. We got the Lexia for the reading to improve reading, and I pulled away from AR. I may go back to AR if they prove to me that they feel like it improves student achievement. So the book club has been very successful. We have a technology club, STLP. We're hoping to, Carrie's working with them to have a competitive group that will be competing with the STLP as an elementary group. Some other strengths. Everybody said there was a clean building. I'm sure, I don't know if you all are aware, we had assessment by the Center for School Safety back in September. Received our report, and there was very few negatives in there at all. They had to do with some things that my teachers and parents and I didn't have any control of. He was very impressed with the building. He said the staff felt secure and students felt safe, and there were some issues about bullying, which we've talked about that. That's a school-wide initiative, a statewide initiative. They're asking for surveys to be completed. But they were very impressed with the school and the security, the cleanliness, cameras, kids supervised, and dismissal and arrival in the morning all those things.
Maybe not with the buses,
Yeah, I didn't mention
but we can't control that.
Yeah. This year, MAP, we think it's because the cut scores changed. And I keep telling my teachers that I'm very proud from where we were last year to this year. This year, fourth grade reading, we're at 63% proficient distinguished. Last year, we were at 37. Fourth grade math, this year we're at 66%. Last year, we were at 27. Third grade, this year we're at 55% proficient distinguished. Last year we were at 48. In third grade math, this year we're at 48%. Last year we were at 43. So, I told them it looks good, but until we get the December winter results, I'm just saying it's probably because the cut scores is moved. But if not, that's bright things, being that we would, fourth grade, be real close to what our goal is for the end of the year for the K-PREP test. Leadership development within the school. We had 4 teachers that applied for the KASC Leading Through Learning cadre that were accepted. They've been doing professional development outside of the school district. They went to KASC conference in Louisville. Had a great time there. Highest attendance for the last 2 months. We think it's because we tell them to dress up every day in something different, so it works. This Friday is camo day because Saturday's opening day of deer season, so we're having a Kentucky day on Friday. Last year we did that with Carrie Elliott, and it was huge. I was sitting there going in my head, we need to expand on it this year. So this year we're having a wood carver, a beekeeper, a quilt maker, somebody's doing artifacts, Civil War artifacts. So they're setting up stations and doing a rotation. All of our kids will wear camo and everything. Carrie did it for the whole school last year, and they all loved it. So we wanted to expand and have more little stations and try to get some people from the community to come in and show some Kentucky kind of craft things, which that will help our program review, hopefully.
That'll be this Friday?
And
who's doing the quilting?
Jackie's.
From the museum. Rosemary.
Okay.
Cable.
I was
Retired teacher. Yeah, Rosemary.
This year we've had Johnny Appleseed Performance that came from Louisville to perform at our school. They did great. We actually had that performance donated by one of our staff members' grandfather, who's on the Council of Arts in Louisville. He paid for them to come to our school. We're having Kentucky Day, a Christmas drama this year. Every year we end the year with World Culture Days. Each non-tested grade level, so K1 and 2, pick a country, and they showcase that country in front of the rest of the 3rd and 4th grade students. It's for them to have a break in the afternoon, but it was great this past year. They did South Africa, Europe, and I can't remember the other one. But anyway, the kids dressed in costume, they do dance, they sing, they have slideshows. The teachers kind of work it out, and they do all the performances for them. Last year we did Christmas Around the World. The 2nd grade, they came and talked about Christmases and other cultures. So we did Community Helpers Day during testing last year, where we had combines and Ruth Hunt candies and goats and pigs, and we had everything out in front of the school. So after testing was over, we try to get everybody out of the building so 3rd and 4th grade can really concentrate on testing. So we provide an event for K through 2 to do outside, and then they come in and 3rd and 4th get to go out in the afternoon. So it was very successful. We'll be doing that again this year. And I don't know, any other questions? I can ramble.
Okay.
I need to give more time. That's way too much I need.
Okay. What are the rest of your analysis? You talked about strengths. What are your current strengths? You covered a lot of those. What are your current weaknesses?
Space.
Okay.
We have one interventionist downstairs in the closet. Oh, I didn't mention this either. I guess I need to. I moved the guidance counselor out into rotation. She does a related arts rotation when the computer lab is being used for math. She took one for the team. Regina Spencer took one for a team when she decided to do that, because most guidance counselors, I don't know, but I don't think, are involved in a related arts rotation. She has a wonderful program, and we gave her the old mini lab upstairs for her, and she uses that as her office and as her classroom. And the kids come to her and do life skills and career studies, those things. And then we have 2 interventionists that are in a guidance office now trying to work. I was in there observing the other day, and it's just difficult to have a very small room and you have 5 kids over here working on reading and 5 kids here working on math. But upstairs we have a room that has psychologists in there, I think 6 people in the room. So our size, I guess it's a good thing. We're at 560 now. So our attendance, so we're growing. We're continuing to grow, and we're running out of room. So I guess next will be a cafeteria for the stage. We'll make it work.
Okay. Let's see, you covered negatives from transition. How about positives?
Goddamn.
We built a new culture.
Built a new culture. The teachers, it's a positive. They came from isolated grade levels. They were at schools that there was 1 3rd grade teacher, 1 4th grade teacher, and 1 2nd. They did not have colleagues to go to and say, I'm getting ready to teach this unit. Have you ever taught it before? If so, can you tell me? So the positive thing is they had 5 teachers on a team to work with now instead of them working in isolation. So they do have a true professional learning community where they sit down and have discussions about this is what we're getting ready to teach. What is the best thing that we need to use to deliver this with? What assessment do we use at the end? So that they have a good group of people to work with that before they were in isolation. They share new ideas and strategies. That is a positive, but when you're trying to plan like Thanksgiving, everybody had a different way they did Thanksgiving at their school in this district. A lot of times they had grandparents in on this day, and they dressed them up in pilgrim hats and this, and they ate together out in the floor. It was all different. So it is a positive because you get to pull from all the best of everything and say, okay, we're going to start a new tradition. This is what we're going to do. So we had a lot of shared ideas, peer collaboration, and a positive for the administration is it was very unbiased. I didn't know what school, and I probably can't go back and tell you, I don't know what school you came from. I don't know what happened there, but I'm telling you this is a new beginning here, and my perception is how you teach in the classroom. So it was a positive. And I think for a lot of teachers that probably taught at some of the, that would probably be where I am now, lower performing schools, it was kind of like a breath, it was like a new start. It was a new start for them. They had populations, you all redistrict, so they got a new bunch of kids. They have a new crop of kids to work with, and maybe different clientele.
Okay, let's see, 1-year plan has been outlined. How about your 3-year plan and things you wish you had besides space?
The 3-year plan would be for the full implementation of Journeys. I feel like the envisions. This is year 2 on it, so I'd like to see 3 years out data that's reflected in our reading scores and its impact on Journeys. Interesting to see where our building would be in 3 years. Top 50 in the state for 25. I don't have a problem with that prediction. 30-day to continue to maintain our attendance. I feel like they have to be in school to be able to get instruction. Positive growth due to the flexible groups. We have kids that are moving in and out of those flex groups on a regular basis. Also, those flex groups give us the ability to take kids out of their homeroom, whatever teacher they have. I can rank them into what skills they need. The top group are doing extensions, but I can have some of the teachers that have shown they're really good at small group instruction, work with the needier kids at the bottom. So a kid doesn't necessarily have the same homeroom teacher all day long. They may be sent to a different teacher during their flex group time. So work on those. This year we've seen tremendous improvement in our math as compared to last year and the full implementation of our RTI plan. 60-day to sit plan to address gaps and then work on our writing in the next 60 days to include writing. We've had a lot of good discussion about what's included with the Journeys and the Lucy Calkins and trying to figure out what's the best path for writing for the school. The Journeys, we had that discussion in the fourth grade meeting the other day with all the fourth grade teachers in the district. So we got to have a good discussion with them about what they're using for the writing portion of their day.
They like what's with the Journeys. They think it's the good place to start as far as building up to the piece and then moving to Lucy Calkins.
They all said that our students are lacking in grammar skills.
So what have they been doing for writing up to this point this year?
Some have been using the Lucy Calkins.
They're using both. It's just as they're getting into Journeys, they're realizing there's a writer's notebook. They like kind of how it starts and kind of flows in a step-by-step. It's easier for the kids who struggle more to write and get their thoughts down on paper and get started. So I think it's kind of a combination of both. They're using Lucy, I think, is I will say what fourth grade said is they would like more training. They're still not real comfortable with digging through Lucy and everything that they need to do. And there's probably varying degrees of comfort with Lucy Calkins still.
They're all concerned with the grammar. They can't get to kids being great writers from getting past the point of their grammar. You know what I mean? So they said that they felt like if they could focus as a group in the fall on the grammar, teaching the grammar part, then develop them as writers in the January through the rest of the year. But see, that doesn't follow what they need to be following. So we're trying to figure out how to make a good mix of that. That's the grammar skills.
And most schools would probably tell you kids tend to write and spell like they talk, because that's
Sadly, that is true.
Yes.
and so that's and kids don't like to write. They don't, a lot of them. So it's a struggle to make it fun.
And that's technology. We have most communication with high school kids is done on a phone and texting. They don't have to write about anything, so. Okay? 60 plan is to those math. We're going to focus on those math scores. Looking forward to spring, we're concentrating on those advanced and those skills that students need to move to proficiency.
All right. Any other questions?
Thank you all.
right, thank you.
Your staff for all you do. Please keep us informed of what you may need that we can help you with.
Okay.
Thank you. Next is Ms. Hillman, Justice Elementary.
I think you got an email today that I somehow managed to mess up my data in this. So there is, under the diagnostic portion, some of my last year's goals are mixed in. Justin, if you'll go down to page 11, that is where all of my current diagnostic things are in there, but they start roughly on page 11. But I'm going to use the one I printed, which they're in order, so if that's okay. Okay, so just like Ms. Hoffman was talking about, we all pretty much have the same achievement gaps. You know, we tend to focus more on our free and reduced lunch because that does encompass all of the children in all of the areas that include African American, Hispanic, with disability, LEP, male, female. So, just like her, we tend to focus on that as well. Same concerns at the beginning of the year, you know, where we all started. Where we all started with new students, new staff, new buildings. So it was a learning curve, but it was a great learning curve for Justice. So we were taking a look at what we had put into effect last year and looking at the strengths and weaknesses of what we put in place to close that achievement gap, and then what could we take, fine tune, or change completely for this year. So just like last year, our focus in my personal growth goal was, our professional growth goal was on RTI, response to intervention. And I wanted to be able to better lead my teachers in placing the children and understanding the process. And it's kind of a complicated process to wrap your mind around, but so we continued, and our focus last year was school-wide, every week on our newsletter, the goal was continuous progress. That's all we were looking for, or continuous growth, or what was it I said on that? How did I word it? Yeah, growth. So this year we took it one step further, and it's growth plus. And when I say plus, we're adding in, of course, the leadership element with our Leader in Me program. So we're building academic growth as well as leadership growth as too. So moving on from there, just taking a look at some of the new things. We noticed that last year in our RTI, which we really put a lot of time and effort into that, I felt like we finally found a good program that helps us with our reading through the Fontes Sempanel program. We made a pretty large financial investment in that at the school level. Then for math, we were using the RTI component of Envisions, but we made some discoveries partway through in the lower grades that we needed to go back and look at the foundational skills that a lot of our kindergartners and first graders just were not strong in those to be able to. So we kind of changed our focus partway through the year in those lower grades. So when I took the data last year, I wanted to know what was the average growth per child. And every teacher at the end of the year, they take a child's beginning of the year MAP scores and end of the year MAP scores, and they either give me the positive growth, or if it, horribly, if it happens, if they should drop. So, and we do a class average for every teacher in reading and math. So what I did after that, I took the list of children that received interventions from our intervention team, and what I found, and it's not a lot, but it was an average of 3 points higher growth than children that did not receive interventions. So we saw some progress. 3 points is 3 points. Some kids came up, that was strictly an average. So this year we took a look at how could we take that RTI, we felt like we were really onto something, and how could we make that even better. And so I gave Kevin the impossible task, but she actually did very, very well with it, with scheduling. We decided to try to have in our 3rd and 4th grade as much of an uninterrupted block in the morning that we could, that would be nothing but solid teaching time. And so each grade level this year has 2 25-minute blocks of time that are designated as RTI. They are the only grade level that has RTI at that time. Well, the beauty of that is I can send my whole team of interventionists. I have 4 interventionists, 100-day people, and 1 part-time AmeriCorps person. I can send that entire team of 5 to that grade level. So they have, let's say if it's a team of 4, they have their 4 regular teachers, the special ed teacher assigned to that grade level, and the other 5 interventionists, and we can break that grade level down 10 different ways. And so far we're seeing some good progress with that. So our tier 3 groups are 3, no more than 5 kids. Some only have 2, just depends. We looked at the needs at each grade level. Our special ed children are getting additional intervention time that's over and above what's on their IEP. Plus we're hitting children that say are in primary grades that need that enrichment for primary talent pool. So we're covering a lot of different things during those 2 25-minute blocks. So that was my goal, because looking at some schools in other counties, what was it that was getting them to that higher proficient and distinguished level? And it's that their children are getting instruction in those small groups. So that's the plan that we have in place this year. So I'm really excited to see how we're doing. We have seen some growth in our math scores. Of course, like she said, Ellen said, it could be that the cut scores changed, but it was really great to see, 4th grade, we were sitting, I think, in reading at close to 70%, which was huge for us. So anyway, so I've talked some about our interventionists and how we're doing that. Of course, we've gone through, the staff has gone through, and that was for our teaching staff and our instructional staff as well, through the Leader in Me training, and that's been a total of 24 hours total between the end of the year and beginning of this year. So that's all up and running. Other things that we're doing to address that achievement gap is as I mentioned, we actually increased our reading time by about a half hour, so we've got a 2 to 2.5 hour reading block for every grade level every day. Of course, we have our 90-minute math block. We're doing more frequent grade level progress monitoring through RTI, so that, like Ellen was saying, those RTI groups are very fluid. And so we want to keep them moving so that we're getting every child on the level that they need instruction. Of course, we have our positive behavior intervention support through our Leader in Me program. We did hire, through our Title I funding, a part-time 4th grade teacher. We were sitting with about 30 to 32 children in each classroom, and so working with Mr. Christie, we came up with a solution for that. So the district helped with part of that, and the school made up the difference, and so that's been very effective for us so far. And like all the other schools, we've had our parent involvement nights. We're really trying to educate our parents on our new Leader in Me program so they can continue that same language and expectations at home. Working still on attendance support. Ellen keeps getting it. I don't know. I got to go over there and see what all she's doing. But we're also putting more effort into that this year as well.
Miniature camo day.
Yeah. I know I owe Mrs. Rigsby an 80s dress-up day. I promised her last year, so I've got to follow through on that. We still have our Born Learning Grant through our Family Resource Center to reach out to families, preschool families, and kindergarten and first grade families. So trying to educate our parents on how can you better help prepare your child for school. So we've seen a big increase with that program this year. We would have maybe 4 to 5, and I think we're in the 20s now of families that are coming for that, so that was pretty exciting. We were happy about that. So, talking about, we've had a lot of strengths going on in the school. Of course, the one I like to hang my hat on right now is that we are a proficient school, and thanks to Mr. Little going back through our scores, one child, we were literally 1/10 of a point away. One child's scores took us 2/10 over being proficient. So that really, and that really does boost your confidence, your staff's confidence.
Every student matters.
It literally. Our new Leader in Me program, of course, is up and running, and it's creeping into some of the most interesting places of conversations you hear with kids. And I had to get on a first grader today because he wasn't doing his work yesterday in class, and when the teacher called me, she said, I've already called the parent and it's not seeing any improvement. So this morning I had a chance to talk to him, and I looked at him and I thought, I'm going to see what he really knows. And I said, which one of the habits are you not following when you don't complete your work? First grader, okay? And he went, putting, and that's all he could remember, putting first things first. That's right, because when you are putting first things first, you're getting your work done before you goof off or play around or whatever else it is you're supposed to do. So it's fun when you kind of see those kind of creeping into what they're doing, or you hear parents sharing, well, they were talking about they've been sharpening the saw all day at home and they didn't want to stop. So, and I think one of the neatest things about that program for us is that we had 90% staff buy-in on that. We put we basically put our entire professional development last year into getting I bet there was maybe only 5 staff members. That included our teaching assistants and our custodian, getting them out to other schools in the state that have that same program so that they could see it in action to see if it would be right for us. The staff is highly motivated. We are so blessed there. Our kids are very motivated. I think you'll see a difference in the hallways of what types of activities the teachers are doing with the kids. I noticed this year on PGES, a lot of the professional growth goals, we had several teachers that listed project-based learning. So we're kind of taking what we're doing and starting to expand on that. Something I was proud of when Kevin and I were going through scores on election day was that we had no novice on our Hispanic reading. So, we don't have a lot of children in that, but we have at least 10, but we had no novice in that. So that was just like, okay, we got it one. We got to do like 6 more areas now. I think that another strength is we've been very creative with our use of our RTI times. We've also been creative with how we're using our related arts teachers when they have like an extra planning period throughout the week. They are each assigned to a different grade level, and that they report to that grade level. They can do one-on-one reading with the kids. They can do They're learning how to do fluency checks. They can go over the sight word list. So we're all hands on deck over there. So, and as I mentioned earlier, Kevin's in that master schedule, that uninterrupted block for reading and math in our 3rd and 4th grade, as well as the RTI plans time. You talk about weaknesses. I don't see a lot of weaknesses at our school. I think just like a lot of schools, you struggle financially. And I remember the day Ellen stood up here last year, or maybe it was this year, and was talking about, literally half your budget is your copiers and your paper. And I sat down and I figured it up. That's over half of our budget. And, we love journeys, don't get us wrong, but when a benchmark test or an end of the chapter test is 16 pages for 1 grade level per child, that's a lot of copies, a lot of paper. We have a solution if the book companies would listen to us. We've got a great idea for them. But anyway, so, it's just, we want to do more after-school programs, but I feel like if I need to compensate my staff for that, and, right now, according to our procedures for the district, it's $300, and, that adds up rather quickly. So funding's always an issue. I think every school would say that. We were very fortunate because the transition, the mergers, or whatever you want to call it, we were blessed. A great staff was assembled for us. I couldn't have asked for a better staff. And I think Kevin and I made it a priority before we even walked out the door our last days at Strode that our first priority is going to be meshing our staff, because when you take care of your employees, they take care of your customers. And they've taken very good care of our little customers. So I think we put a lot of time and effort into that. And just even the first time we met, we were very purposeful in what we did and how we went about it. So we took a lot of time to get to know our staff, spent a lot of time in classrooms. We're in there every day, but to really get to know who knows what. And like Ellen made that comment, she said, you've got teachers from all these different schools and everybody's knowledge base is so different. And we gave our new staff that year a homework assignment before we got together the first time. And we said, what were some of the traditions that you used at your old school? And what would you like to see traditions at the new school when we all get together? And so we went through and read those, and we tried to merge those in what we planned and did. So I think that was pretty successful. I don't want a single negative thing that came out of it for us. I mean, other than, getting used to new kids and new staff, but I feel we were very, very blessed in that transition. So our plan for this school year is we're going to keep right on going with our Growth Plus, and that comes through our RTI, that comes through our Leader in Me program, and that's been paying off well for us, and we're going to stick with it. We also want to continue to work on improving leadership opportunities for our kids. That's kind of a challenge. Lighthouse team met today, and it's, we're trying to reach what they call lighthouse status, and it takes a couple of years to get there, but you have to provide 100% of your children leadership opportunities, and that can sometimes get a little challenging, especially for your kindergartners, but they have what they're doing. So our goal for 3 years from now is to be on that distinguished list. We're only about 10 points away. We can do that. That's very attainable, and I feel confident that we can make that happen. So anyway, so that's how things are going at Justice.
Questions? I have one.
Okay.
What do you all do with language mechanics?
We used a program
I'm
last
looking
year.
at your test scores.
We had the highest. I think we had the highest. We used a program, actually, I think it was Shannon McCord that told us that they used out at Providence called Simple Solutions. And we made the investment in that. I haven't purchased them this year because, honestly, we just don't have the extra funding right now. We didn't have as much, where the schools had to contribute part of our flex funds towards our reading through the journeys. We only have one piece of software. The staff had to really pare down what they wanted. And so, but trying to figure out a way that we could purchase those books again, but that was what we used. They were very faithful with those.
Because you stand out, because that's your scores are way above.
Yep. Simple, we credit it to Simple Solutions. So, and we only used that with 4th grade last year. We did not use that with 3rd. So we would like to expand it. I know this year, 3rd grade, I kind of got tickled. I did that 23 years ago when I first started this gig, but they're doing daily oral language, which is just very simplified. It's tried and true. Yeah, we all know that one, don't we? So third grade right now is using daily oral language, but
What do you use for your writing program?
it's a mix of the Lucy with the Journeys.
And can you talk about the Leader in Me program a little bit more?
What do you want to know?
How do you think, well, tell us what the 7 positive
You're going to put me on the
traits
spot and I'm
of-
going to get nervous.
First grade.
Yeah, all right, Kevin, get up here. So, be proactive, begin with the end in mind. First things first. That's it. Think win-win. Seek first to understand, then be understood. Synergize and sharpen the saw. Did I get that? Yay.
Excellent.
And our kids, we took the first 7 weeks of school and we purposely studied one habit in depth that whole week, the whole school. Our morning announcements. It was so funny because the staff all got together and they divided themselves 7 ways. And each group took and did a video for each habit, and it was hysterical. And so we showed it to the kids, and some of the parents have seen it, and so they really enjoyed it. And you have a book that you follow to teach the habits, but you tailor your program for your school. So the way it would look in my school might look different than it might look, say, if Ellen did it in her school. So that's the hard part is. And everybody's been to so many different schools that we've all got all these ideas. So you're trying to kind of plan it out. And we've really tried to work this year on making the building visually appealing. It's a beautiful facility, but it was very institutional feeling last year. But this year, man, it's kind of come alive in the hallways. And the best compliments, one of the teachers said, man, it's starting to look like a Leader in Me school. Because when you walk in these schools, the hallways are just alive. I mean, they're pretty amazing. So, we have, when our safety patrol and our news program, our news show, the children had to fill out job applications. I didn't interview, but they had to have a teacher recommendation, and then I made the selection. They had to sign a job contract. And one of the contract is if your behavior is not up to par, you don't get a second chance. And I have had to remove one student from that job. And and it was funny because I expected an argument from him. And I said, look, your job contract, you need to go back and read that sentence right there. And I said, you signed it, so you knew what was coming. We have our Veterans Day program tomorrow, and so a lot of the kids have gone out and interviewed family members, and so they've got those to present tomorrow. Our end in mind this year is our Leadership Day, and we're doing ours a little different. Instead of opening that up to other schools, which everybody in Clark County is welcome, but a lot of times you open it up across the state and you charge for it. I wanted it to be where we open it up just to the Clark County business community, because what we're hoping from that is I want them to see their future, the future of their business. And I'm hoping that they're going to be as pumped about it as we are, and they want to be a sponsor of that. And so that's our end goal this year we're just doing one Leadership Day, but the first one will be open specifically for the Winchester business community. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you for your work.
Yes.
Thanks, appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, thank you.
All right. Next is Mr. Coleman.
I'm sure you've seen enough documents from Assist to keep you busy, but I think roughly when you look at some of the strategies that that are addressed in our plan, basically are our interventions program that we've implemented. I think that's been one of the big keys to our success, pulling students. We've actually increased that now to where we're pulling from, I think, 3 different class periods during the week as well as during night time. The one drawback to that, I think, is we're just out of personnel. We can't really increase it anymore because we've maximized our content teachers When you're dealing with, particularly with Algebra 2, you've got to have math content teachers to do those interventions. So I think we're kind of at capacity with that, but that's what's I think gotten us to where we're at now, and will carry us forward. But I do think we've about reached our peak as far as being able to serve kids in those areas. Mastery checks is something we've been doing for a long time. We continue to do those. Our formative assessments, teachers report out. They're doing goal setting. We're tracking. Each teacher has a goal for NAPD, Novice Apprentice Provision Distinguished. Departments have those goals and they report back. Project-based learning, the PBL, I think has finally really started to take hold with a couple of the teachers. You've probably seen some of the articles in the newspaper about some of the programs that they're doing. And I think that's one that will grow in time, and I think probably if you go out and look across not only across Kentucky, but across the nation at schools that are doing, high schools that are doing well, you'll see that project-based learning is a major component in all those schools. I think we've come a long way with it, and we're continuing to grow it. Scheduling and connections, I do think connections, I think sometimes it's gotten a bad rap from some people, but I do think connections is important because I have seen those kids that have made have those advocates at school that speak up for them, and I think that's the purpose of it. ACT and EOC review sessions, that's still going on. We're continuing with that. I think we had some back before the October test. We had English reading and math review sessions after school. I think we had about 60 kids that showed up for those total for those. Our EOCs reviews are going on. Those will actually ramp up more in spring till we get closer to testing. I think our testing window right now is probably the last 2 weeks of April for EOCs. So that will pick up in earnest come March. Some of the barriers it's on down through there, it's listed is, like I said, limited number of content teachers for interventions. You've only got X number of math teachers, so you're limited in what you can do with that. And really, when you get into English, it's pretty much the same thing with English too. We run into problems with that. Biology, U.S. history is a little easier. We can tend to pull more people in for that one, but in the science and the math, it's getting difficult to do that.
Do I understand that you use Apex for some of those kids in algebra?
We do. That's more the Apex is used for more of the tier 3 kids, probably.
Okay.
Where we can really slow it down and tailor the lessons in there. If you get into Apex, you can narrow down what they have to do, and that's kind of what we've been doing for those kids. Apex is a good tool, but I don't know that. I've got to be different. Watch what I say here. It's a good teaching tool, but it's also, I agree with them, a program is not the answer always because the teacher has to be there. I think online learning has its place, but I'm not completely sold on online learning yet. Just but gap population, our size, I think we're 52% free and reduced, so that's over 800 students that automatically fall into a gap population. We do try to target, obviously, the free and reduced as much as we can because that is the population that takes them all in. We're really cognizant of special ed. I think our teachers do a really good job working with those kids. Student engagement's one, too, I think is something we battle a lot, particularly with secondary. And I think a lot of that, some of it goes back to our teachers because differentiation is a key. I don't think secondary teachers really know how to differentiate a lot. I still go back to my days as an elementary principal. I understand differentiation when you walk in and you see reading circles going on in groupings. I think if high school teachers could employ that and bring that up, then high school would be a lot different. But and ILP, that's one of the tools that one of the mandates we have to do in the schools. I do think it gets a bad reputation. A lot of it just simply gets done at time. Sometimes it's not fully used by kids. So and that's something that we're working to change. But I don't know. What questions do you have for me? Because I can go through this and we can discuss it, or I can answer questions.
Do you have a CCR go-to person this year?
Ms. Sharrock is actually working with that right now. We started the year with 108. As of today, we're at 201, college and career ready. Going forward, we've got to get to about 320. And I want to tell you it's going to be uphill, big time uphill to get to 320. I'm optimistic, but I'm a realist too. I don't know this time.
This last ACT that you had, do you have the scores back from that? Was that
They came back. We do not. Kids got them today because my daughter texted me with hers this morning. So they do. They are out. Kids can get them. We don't have access to them right
So
now.
your numbers might go up after that.
It could, but most of the kids probably that's on our list are probably didn't take the test.
Gotcha. Okay.
So.
And I thought you were doing a push to get more of those.
We're
those
doing a
kids.
push. We're doing a push for sophomores and juniors in December.
Gotcha.
We're pushing in December, the December test date. October is the largest. Generally, is the largest always test date. So we try to work when we do that. We try to do December a little bit small, not very many kids test on there. Like I said, we're 201s. We've come a long way from 108 to 201, but to get to 320, we've got a mountain we've got to get up. So,
What are the particular deficiencies in this year's group?
reading is atrocious. When you get to the high school, if you're not reading when you get to me, we're not miracle workers. I mean, it is almost impossible to move a kid in reading. I would have thought early on that math was a problem. We don't have a problem with math. I mean, we've got Miss Fiffin and Miss Huff doing exceptional jobs. They can move the kids. They're moving kids. I mean, it's every week they're passing kids in math. Reading is a different story. We tested 9 the other day. All 9 failed. And they were close. Some of them were close within a point. But it's very hard. And I don't know that those really reading, and it's not skills that we can readily teach to try to get kids caught up to where they can pass. We're working. I mean, that's going to be the key. We've got to move a lot of kids in the English and the reading in order to get to 320.
Is there any hope for the future classes?
I think with Reading Plus, I mean, we implemented that program. We've got the freshmen, about 2/3 of the freshman class are in Reading Plus. Now, those kids, they're going to do another the mid-year assessment will be done in December, but just from talking to the 2 teachers we've got, both of them have seen gains. They're very, very positive, but it's not just an online tool that they're doing it. I wanted a blended format. That's what they do. It's kind of interesting. You go in to observe the class. The first thing they do is silent, sustained reading. Well, that teacher is walking around reading with them. They do that for about 10 minutes, and they do journal writings, which I think is pretty good. They're attacking writing through that, and then they do small group and individual work. Some kids may be over in the back of the room on iPads because we bought iPad laptop cards for those programs. So they're over there with their headsets on, working through the program. So, I think hopefully in 2 years we can maybe deal with some of that. We kind of switched up English 1 a little bit to try to focus more on reading skills, but it's a major issue, and I don't have the answer for that one.
Do you have anyone on staff who is a reading specialist by training?
Yes, that's one of the ladies that I hired this past summer is a reading specialist, and she's the one that's heading up the program, does it full time. I can show you this, like for example, you can just see it from the color on it. It's got names on it, but this is like the listing of the kids that have, all these kids have one benchmark. This big band right here carries over the same page. They're the kids that got math already. But they're either short in reading or language arts. So, and then you can get over on the last page where the no benchmarks are. But that's part of the battle that we face. I think you're getting on there.
So how can we help you solve the problem?
Well, I've got you coming right here. I've got a couple things I'd like to talk to you about while I've got the opportunity, and I'll let you pass those around. I don't know if you all realize it or not, but I think Clark County has the distinction of being the only district, to my knowledge, that I've run across across the state of Kentucky. And from the people that I've talked to out of state and some of the meetings I've been at, I don't think anybody here worked with AP the way Clark County has, the stance the board took to fund those initiatives. And I think you need to be applauded for that. And I think it's important to continue that going. I think we're back this year. I meant to pull the numbers today, but we had our college and career fair, and I didn't get an opportunity to get the data pulled. But the numbers in AP are probably back to where they were. We took a little bit of a nosedive last year, and now they're back. And I think a lot of that had to do with the class of kids that came through, and those are the kids that are that class is the senior class right now. So that's probably making our problem a little bigger. But I'd like for you to look at, I just want to talk to you about a few things, but I think one of the most innovative things I've heard, and this came out of a school in Mississippi, but is the sophomore ACT administration. That district took it on. They also do the juniors of statewide Mississippi, but they do an administration for sophomores, and that district assumed the burden and implemented that program. And I think that's something I'd like to see Clark County look at, because I think that would be another feather in the hat for this district, because I know nobody in the state of Kentucky is doing that right now. Just rough numbers there. If the ACT is $39.50 a kid. If you tested 400, it would be about $16,000 close to it. I don't think you would have a 100% test rate. I'm a realist, but this would have to be on a national test date. This would not be a test given during the school day. It would be on a Saturday. But if you had 75%, which is probably still a little high, you're slightly under $12,000. But I do think that's something that needs to be looked at or considered at some point. I think that's a great investment in the kids' future. The other thing is talking about the dual credit expansion. I've been meeting with, I've had 2 meetings with BCTC, and I guess I can't think, not Rhonda Sims, but I can't think of the woman's name out of Lexington that's over the dual credit program with community college. But I would like to see us start probably next fall and expand that and be able to offer kids 30 hours to be able to give them that when they leave GRC. Right now we're offering anywhere from 18 to 21 hours that they can take at GRC with our teachers. Through my conversations with them, the most economical route to do this would be if we hired an adjunct professor to come to the GRC and teach classes. And when you look at it, it's really pretty economical. I mean, and I don't know that, I guess a lot of people do it, but if I was an adjunct professor and getting paid only $2,000 to teach a class, I don't know if that's a lot of money to come and teach a class. But adjuncts get $21.75 per course plus fringe benefits.
These people have a doctorate?
No, they do not.
Okay.
They do not.
So the adjuncts would not?
No.
But they have their master's.
They would have to have at least 18 hours in their
Yeah.
content specific area.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So, but these would be people actually placed by BCTC. It would not be us. But so in order to pull that off, roughly we're probably talking about somewhere over a 2-year period, about $15,000 if we assume the cost to give the kids 30 hours. The one thing I will note, I think Moorhead is kind of recruiting us a little bit right now.
We've got a
They're
meeting
coming.
set up with them. They're coming to talk to us about it.
So I want to see what they're willing to put on the table. Nothing against the community college, but I think that there's a little bit stronger tie with the universities. I'm kind of living that with my own children right now, so I kind of tend to steer more towards the university if I have that option. I think it'd be interesting to see what Moorhead wants to put on the table for us, because they're actually soliciting us. It's not us going after them. So.
I do have a question about that, and it's something to ask in your meeting, because like BCTC, because of the way it's structured, KCTCS, their credit hours for in-state colleges are transferable. But for some, if they take a credit at Moorhead, or EKU now, how transferable are those? Because that's what parents are going to look at. They're going to say, okay, like my daughter took the 2 math courses. She's done with math, for her, college. You know what I'm saying? But if they take it from Moorhead, when you have this conversation, is that transferable to most institutions? I mean, I understand most of our kids are not going out of state.
No.
Most of them are staying in state, and most college. But if you look at, like when you go to Moorhead's website and you look at transfer, they'll tell you whatever institution they came from, what the name of the course was, and what Moorhead will or will not accept. And, I guess I'd want to know, is that a
Vice
flip-flop?
versa.
Anyway, but I used to not be a big fan of the dual credit until my own daughter did it, and then I realized, her worth was, I've taken a college course, I made a good grade in it, that stays with me forever, and she's very proud of that. Whereas,
I feel like the 6 hours you can get in the U.S. history and the 6 hours in English. I think the 6 hours in English, I'm going to tell you, is more stringent under Fred Kerber at GRC than what it is out here at the community college. And I think that plays a key variable, and that's what I have lived with my daughter. I pulled my daughter out of the program because I thought she was getting more at her high school than she was getting from
and I think
college.
it's probably teacher dependent no matter where you go.
It is. It's very-
And most colleges, wherever you go, even if you've gotten your 6 hours of English done, wherever you did it, whether it's AP credit or something else, they're going to still have you, there's still a writing requirement.
Yeah.
So,
Speech usually. But UK's done something that's different too now. They've meshed communication, speech in with English. So there's some catches there.
So like you'll still have to take an English class. Every institution's a little different, but they realize the kids are doing more AP and they're doing more dual credit, but they still want some of that. We want to see you actually do it. So.
I think too one of the other areas, the big areas I think that we need to take a long, hard look at is Perkins. I mean, I don't know how familiar some of y'all know what Perkins is, but it's some of the federal funding for vocational. That whole program is getting ready is up for reauthorization. And I was in Columbus at a conference, and talking to Chief CCPS, Chiefs of State School Officers. And I just happened to be at a table and sit down and had a long conversation with one of the delegates from there, and they were talking about the Perkins. And then actually the presenter was one of Arnie Duncan's underlings up from D.C., but that's going to be overhauled a lot. And you've heard a lot. There's a lot of talk right now, I know, in the news media, and I'm getting emails. We get emails every day from Dr. Pruitt at KDE about the arts pathway, all the controversy they've created with it. But career is a big component. And I think one of the things that GRC could do is, I would like to see us move into a couple of career academies, launch at least one career academy, probably some type of medical arts. And I think it could be a blend. I'm not trying to compete against the ATC. I would like to see them come in with us, and maybe part of this medical arts academy is you're going to leave GRC. You're going to leave GRC with a Project Lead the Way biomed certificate, and you're going to leave with a CNA. We're going to help prepare you to fulfill your dreams in whatever way you want to go in those areas. We can also, I think, through the Project Lead the Way, we're getting ready. Next year is our certification year for that program. She should be able to get certified to do the EKG tech, and there's another certificate that they can get through Project Lead the Way. But I think those are the future. Elkhorn Crossing in Scott County is a big school that does a lot of this. Corbin Independent is another one that's just actually launched their first big career academy. But I can see it borrowing from a lot of different people. I've had SREB on here. That's the old high schools that work. Been around for a long time, but they're really pushing career academies right now. The other one I think is probably some type of computer science engineering. And again, I think it would be a hybrid. I think we would draw from the industrial maintenance program at the vocational school, because they've got some fluids classes and some other classes in there that could be meshed together. We've got the first ever VEX grant. It's by teachers. I had a teacher actually that loves robotics, so I think we're going to venture out and probably will enter into our first robotics competition this spring. The kids are already, they got the grant that paid for the motor, and I guess it's almost about the size of that table right there. So they'll be building their own robot and programming it to compete in the competition. So I think that's critical. Project Lead the Way's got another one. We were within one of the schools that's eligible to apply for Toyota. A grant through Toyota, and it's basically for engineering. It's computer assisted production, I think is what they call it, or something like that. But anyway, I think all those are great components. I think things that could propel the high school to new heights. And I'm going to throw another one at you. It's graduation requirements, something to think about. We require 3 more credits than what the state says. But if a kid's career ready and that kid has a career and has a job, I don't know that we should have to make that kid sit for 25 credits. But I think that's something that needs some consideration. I mean, if they're ready, we give kids, the state's giving kids now the right to early grad if they're college ready. They can walk out at the end of their junior year regardless of credits if you've got the ACT and you've passed your EOCs. But I think that's something that's worth a look, some consideration. The last two things I've got on here are things that are specific, and I know we talk a lot about reoccurring cost, and I know I'm not asking for reoccurring cost, but I think we need to look. We need a curriculum specialist, and I'm not just talking for GRC, but maybe it's a high school 7-12 curriculum specialist. We need somebody that knows secondary curriculum. I'm not going to tell you. I'm telling you right now, I'm not that man. I do not know secondary curriculum. I understand assessments, and I have a knowledge, but I'm not an expert in secondary curriculum. There's lots of changes coming, and who knows what's going to happen with the changes in our state right now. We know the Common Core was one of the platforms that during the election. So I don't know if that's going to change our math standards or ELA standards. I don't know. We're on the verge of getting ready to implement new social studies standards, and that's going to be an issue for us. The other thing that worries me the most from my conversations with my network of people, it looks like the consensus is they're going to add Algebra 1 EOC and English 1 EOCs to the high school because we have no way to measure growth now. The plan is going. If that happens, then we're going to have issues in trying to figure out with middle school kids about taking Algebra 1. So we need to probably be a little proactive and start giving some thought to some things because I do think that's probably going to be coming down the pike this spring, more than likely. But the other thing I've seen from a lot of schools too is I'm not sure. We offer Algebra 1 credit to a middle school kid, but I think why can't we not give a kid Spanish 1 credit? We have a Spanish teacher in middle school. Why can we not give them a high school credit for taking Spanish 1? Or
Who decides that?
I think it's a local board decision.
I mean, because
Algebra 1's in policy.
When we did French, who made that decision that the French?
I think we just accepted they had French 1 and moved them on into French 2.
Well, my daughter got credit.
That I could.
I mean, like if I pulled her transcript right now, there'll be a French credit, and then there's a Algebra 1 credit. And when you talk about that EOC, can it not be administered to the 8th graders?
Well, I guess my concern is, and I think, and I don't know, I know in the past we've had issues when we launched the Algebra 1 big time. I don't know that it was taught with fidelity because it created a lot of problems for us when they came to us because they weren't where they needed to be. And I think that's some of the issues we've dealt with for the last couple of years in trying to remediate a lot of kids. So I think we got to ensure that it is truly taught to the rigor that Algebra 1 is going to have to be taught to if it's going to measure within EOC. Because obviously you're siphoning off a group of kids who are probably your your better kids. Mm-hmm. So we've got to be cautious that we're not digging ourselves in a hole to start with. And I think that's something that needs to be given some thought. And I don't know about that question. I'm not quite sure. But I do think there's other classes that we could give them credits for that would help propel kids, move them on down the track. And I think your talented and gifted program is a prime example. I mean, if you've got a kid who's supposedly talented and gifted, then why are they not maybe taking an additional class for high school credit?
Well, you've got 8th graders on a bus now coming and taking geometry at the high school.
We did. We've got about 10, I think, 8 or 10. Maybe.
So, and those are your top kids that are not going to be taking an EOC in Algebra 1 because they've already done it. So.
And then probably in 4 years you're going to get dinged or you're going to get an email. They're showing up on a report. Why they never tested? So that's something that I mean.
Well,
I think
when you
just
say be proactive, maybe we should incorporate some sort of testing for them, and then say they passed the EOC.
We did that for a couple of years. I think 2 years we tested, and then kind of moved away from it just due to the cost. But we were doing the algebra. We did Algebra 1, English 1, EOC.
I don't know. In that situation, if you got a kid who's proficient on the ACT score, they take it. Let's say we take it sophomore year, like you're suggesting. You're not going to be proficient on the ACT unless you've done algebra and geometry to satisfaction. So.
That's true. The last thing I just want to mention on here too is I think with the high school we've had lots of changes, and I would like to see 2 years ago, or I think 2011, and then 12 and 13. Now, I don't know how this happened, but we added that fourth administrator, and during that time it came out of our allocation, didn't cost the board anything, but for somehow I had to pay the index for that person. So I would like to see maybe when you do budgets or we talk about staffing in the future that we possibly be able to have an index if we opt to go that route, because maybe that's how I could get a curriculum person possibly. I don't know, but I know that if P just stays intact, and right now we hired, trying to be creative, we brought on 3 part-time teachers rather than hiring some full-time to give us teachers in different areas. So I just inherited 12 more evaluations that I have. Official evaluations I have to do. So, and when you have as many non-tenured folks as we do, we're looking at 250 to 260 between a couple of us right now. So, but anyway, I think those are my points.
This summer, you had predicted that there would be about 798 kids in the AP classes, so you think you're over that?
We're right at the, maybe more. Yeah. And a lot of that honestly is where we opened the gates up to freshmen. We've got a lot of freshmen that's taken human geography and psychology.
And you have, you still have the 24 in EKU now, or do you have more?
I think we have like 30.
Okay.
So.
And
Is Ms. Sherlock still doing that program?
She's doing it part of the time, not every day. She's on a rotation. We kind of went to a rotation.
With the demise of Explore and Plan, there's some chatter about other things that are going to come in to replace it. Do you have any thoughts or opinions, or do you think you can read tea leaves coming from the state?
You know, in an ideal world, 24 years as a principal, or not 24 years in education, I think our whole accountability system stinks. Okay, if you want to measure growth, you've got to test kids every year in the same subjects.
Yes.
Right.
I would love to see Aspire, which is ACT's new product, because it's given, I think, grades 3 through 10.
3 through 11, yeah.
And if you give it every year, you've got growth, and you're going to know. I don't see they'll do it because of money. I think it's going to cost so much money.
But if we could do away with some of this other stuff, we'd have the money to do that, wouldn't we?
The one thing that I have heard consistently is they're wanting to pare down assessments. Pare down assessments.
The new commissioner's talking that too.
Yes.
So, there's not a lot out there. The one probably causes me more concern than anything right now is the Compass. Is Compass going away? Basically, that's what we use to get seniors to benchmark. That we have 1 year. I think next December it ends, but I would assume that we'll phase it out probably this spring. I'd say KD won't use it in the fall. So there's not a lot out there for that either. There's something called AccuPlacer I've done a little research in, and then there was I can't think of the other program. There are 2 programs that the community college people are really pushing. AccuPlacer is one, and I can't think of the other one off the top of my head, but neither one of them are really diagnostics. They're more of tutorial type programs, and so I don't know that that's really going to help us very much. The Coyote is not readily every college doesn't accept Coyote, so that's a problem. That one's kind of basically free to us, but there's not a lot of colleges take that.
but in the state of Kentucky, most of them do, don't they?
Louisville just did, and someone else came on board. Eastern Moorhead, I think, have been. I don't know about your. I don't think your private ones do. Louisville just started. I think they just started simply because they realized that Compass is going away, and Cody's easier. It's easier. You can actually do a written work to get the English requirement back, and it's sent off and gets scored by 2 people, and anybody uses it. Like I had to put my teachers have to grade work from other schools. We don't know who they are. They're assigned a number that they're sent to us. So it's kind of just depends on the luck of the draw of who gets you paper to read.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Bowler, thank you. Congratulations on your achievement and your teachers, and I hope you celebrate every chance you get.
We're trying. I think the kids worked hard, and I think our teachers really do. So, like I said, we're trying to climb the mountain again. It's going to be a mountain.
Thank you.
All right. Next up was Ms. Kincaid.
All right, good evening. We have had a great start to the year at Phoenix Academy. As you all know, last year was the rest of the district's time to transition and have new facilities and staffs and all of those things. Well, this year was Phoenix Academy's. We didn't see a whole lot of effects from the transition last year. We stayed remotely, for the most part, intact. But this year, we added on our alternative component, and it is now in full swing. We've hired additional staff members, and we took up the second third of the building that we were in last year, and we've got that all in place, and we've had very few growing pains, still some, but nothing that we haven't been able to deal with as of yet. I want to start by giving you some numbers. They're actually not on the chart because our attendance and our numbers change almost daily, so I actually did these today. This is the most current up as of 3:50 today. We have 32 students. 47% female, 53% male, which breaks down to 15 and 17 actual numbers. 47% of our students have current attendance letters or have been sent attendance letters this school year. 22% are special education identified with an IEP. Only 1% have a 504. 56% are court ordered. 44% are not court ordered. And then 84% have had or do have current court involvement. And that could be from any number of things, truancy, charges of some other sort or anything. So those are just some numbers to get you kind of thinking of where we are. When we talk about gap, we kind of have to get out of that mindset when we're talking about Phoenix because our whole building is essentially gap. So when we're talking about goals and things like that, we're talking whole building goals and plans for the most part. But I do have some things, good things that we have going on in our building. A lot of them are things that we're continuing from last year. We're just expanding because we have more staff and more students to accommodate. We're still doing the school newspaper. We're still doing the robots, the aquaponics. Two things we have expanded are our chess program. We actually, having more students, we have a bigger chess team this year, and we were able to host a chess tournament at the Phoenix Academy last month, which was exciting. Our chess coach got the credentials to do that, and we had trophies the whole 9 yards. We had several students from the community, other schools, St. Agatha, Calvary Christian, both sent students. It was a nice turnout, and we're looking to do one again, hopefully sometime a little bit closer to Christmas. Also, we have started a sewing and embroidery class. We were able to purchase an embroidery machine. We had 2 sewing machines donated. We have a teacher who is a seamstress, and she has given her skills to the students. We've had some outside people come in and help with that. They are with the goal of starting a business. We've been embroidering some things we've actually done a couple things for people here in central office, and I'll get those to them, and we can hopefully get going on that as a business. We've had some speakers come in and talk to them about invoices and receipts and how to sell your product and marketing and all those things. So it's been a much bigger project than what we even initially thought once the kids got a hold of it, which is always exciting to see. We're expanded on our meetings, which with the expanded staff, we have the privilege of doing that. Last year, nobody had a counterpart, so we would meet as an entire staff, and that was really the only breakdown we had. This year, we have 1 day a week where the teachers meet as a whole group in that type of PLC setting. Sometimes I'm present if needed, but most of the time I let my lead teacher run that, and they just send me the minutes through email. And then also on Thursdays, everybody meets with their counterpart, math teachers, science, so on and so forth. And we have it's specifically to address data, looking at common assessments, looking at any data that we can get our hands on, and Thursday meetings are directed towards student achievement. And then they also, the teachers keep the data, and then they send that back to me, and they send minutes from those Thursday meetings back to me as well. And I bounce back and forth between whose I settle because they all occur at the same time. We are using Apex. We've made the switch with GRC from Edgenuity to Apex. We like Apex a whole lot more. It's much better suited for our facility because you can really tailor each course They go all the way down to fundamentals, and then for students that need some enrichment, they have more advanced courses. So we can really tailor it to what the students need. We actually have one student taking Spanish this year, which we had the student last year want to, but we didn't have that capability. So now we do. We've made some use of having migrants so close to us when they have some questions that none of us can answer. And we also allow this for credit recovery. Most students who come to us have a need for credit recovery in some shape, form, or fashion, whether it be a few credits or coming to us with very few credits, and they are at the age level of a junior or senior. So we have one class period a day still devoted just to credit recovery. We call it credit recovery, but every student is on Apex at that time, and it can be credit recovery if they need it. If they don't, it's used as enrichment, and they're still getting credits for that. We even have this year our middle school students on Apex, which has been really helpful and beneficial for us. We still use our employability system. It's the same as it was last year. We have the different levels. Students have to get different percentages based on what level they are currently on, and certain rewards come with each privilege. Being a leader in the building, being able to untuck your shirt. I know it sounds like a minor thing, but I'm telling you, these kids will jump through hoops to not have to tuck a shirt in, and we use that to the fullest as much as we can. Getting a locker is a privilege now. That's one thing we changed this year. And basically, they start at the very bottom in orientation, and they earn all of the privileges to be on graduation phase. Attendance is a big push this year. We do have, I said, the high percentage of our students with attendance letters. We do have a problem with getting our students, even those that have court orders to attend school, still have problems getting them to attend school. But we're doing better this year, putting in more incentives. We were able to get some gift cards. We have one for every month. Different places around town, Tasty Time, GameStop, all of those places. We asked the kids, where would you like to have gift cards from? They told us, and we got them. And now the student with the highest attendance each month gets a gift card. And that we've seen a little bit of an increase since that. We've started graphing the daily attendance, and we post it by the cafeteria so that they can see. We call our treatment side the red team and our alternative side the white team, because we didn't want the negative connotation with either one of those. So everything's based on red team versus white team. We have an attendance challenge between the two sides. It lasts 7 weeks, and at the end of 7 weeks, whoever has the best attendance gets a pizza party. So we're putting small things in place, but we've got a lot of things. They get to dress down on Fridays if they have perfect attendance for the week. I said the gift cards. We also are doing Student of the Month, and part of that, it was their attendance. Once they're Student of the Month, they get to have a lunch brought in from an outside place. They get to be a leader for that following month, and leaders get to be used as runners and have certain privileges within the building. Moving on, we're still using life skills classes. We're really focusing on our soft skill instruction. We've got it embedded into all of our classes, as well as our counselors using it during our group sessions. We are working on building relationships and connecting with people in the community in an effort to also increase that employability and those soft skills. And we have community members as guest speakers almost every Friday. Every once in a while there's a Friday where we have trouble getting somebody in there, but we usually plan weeks and weeks in advance. Most recently we had, for Red Ribbon Week, Jason Boer. He was a survivor of the 1988 Carrollton bus crash. He came and spoke to our students, did a wonderful job. It was fabulous presentation. Our student, they really hit home for our students. We've also had Officer Nathan Shortridge came and did a defensive driving class with all of our students who are drivers. They had to have their permit or their actual license, and he came and did that with our students. It was wonderful as well. We are also working on showing students all the options they have, and this was when I came to you the last time, last month, I guess, or a couple weeks ago maybe. I asked for the funding to help us take the trip to Spalding University, and I thank you so much for that because it was wonderful. We have 2 students who are signing up, getting more information from Spalding. One's a sophomore and one's a junior. We're working with both of them on getting their ACT scores up. Spalding has already communicated back to us that just get their ACT scores up a little bit and we'll work with you. We'll make some allowances. So that was a wonderful trip for our students to see. It's not just, in their mind, it was either a 4-year university or nothing. They didn't a lot of them weren't aware of all the options available. So we've spent a lot of time doing that. We're going to tour BCTC in the spring. We always do that in the spring as part of an employability week. And we'll also be touring the industrial park. We did that last year, and we tour different facilities, and it's great because we see things that you can do right out of high school. We see things that need a 2-year degree, things that need certificates only, things that need 4-year degree. We see the whole gamut, so that's also very helpful, and we'll be doing that as well later on in the spring. We actually have 3 students who are currently employed as interns at the Karen Coffee House. They're going through a 9-month program that the Karen came and approached us with, going through different levels of internship, and will end, hopefully, in the positive with them getting hired as an actual paid employee. So we're really proud of that. They were in the KEXAC monthly newsletter. 2 of them the Karen had a grand reopening, and our 2 students got to cut the ribbon. So that was definitely a proud moment for all of us. We still do the Parent University on a monthly basis, and we've required this year that all teachers make positive contacts with students monthly. So each student's parent or guardian will get a positive contact every month. Not from every teacher every month, but at least 1 positive contact each month. And we're also having some taco and chili nights as just a way to bring awareness to our building, to get some people in to see the expansion, all of the great things we have to offer. I have invitations for you all. Our first chili night is going to be the 19th at 5 p.m. So you can take one of those and pass them around there. One of the things I'm probably the most proud of that we've accomplished this year was our trip to Justice Elementary. We took our white team of students for Bullying Awareness Month in October. They wrote and illustrated anti-bullying books, or kindness books is what we called them. And they took them to Justice, and the first idea was they were just going to read them to the kindergartners. And then the more Mr. Little and I talked, it grew and grew and grew, and it eventually grew into a full day rotation. We saw every student in the building. We had our students with the older 3rd and 4th grade kind of mentoring, lecturing them on choices. We had a song and dance routine. We had a skit. We had 2 students doing a rap. We had face painting. We painted blue ribbons for bully awareness on their faces and had them paint their hands, and each grade level got a banner. I think it said, "Lend a hand, take a stand against bullying." So it was a full day event, and the best part was in the middle of the day when the related arts teachers had their lunch. They, instead of taking a break from the chaos that we were putting them through already, came and sat and mentored our students at lunch. And when I came in and I saw all my students sitting on the stage with all of these other teachers who weren't their teachers, were on their lunch, didn't have to spend a minute with them, eating pizza, playing basketball, talking with them. Some of them had them as students in grade school. It was really powerful. And students have already said, we want to go again. The red team has let me know that it is not fair. It's against some constitutional right that they didn't get to go, and they have to be able to go the next time as well. So I'm super proud. The way they ran with it was amazing. Very little adult interaction once we got there and got them set up. We're hosting our 2nd annual Veterans Day celebration. We're doing it different this year. Instead of going to a different location, we're going to do it in-house. Our facility is not really set up to accompany a large crowd of people, but we didn't have a large turnout last year, so we're going to try it this way and kind of see which way is better. We've had students working on different things. They're making Christmas cards and things for the vets throughout other than just for tomorrow, but for throughout the rest of the year. We have a guest speaker coming. Just lots of things throughout the day instead of one big assembly just at one set time. And we're going to see, like I said, just evaluate and see how that works between the 2. So, that's what I had prepared. Is there any questions? Are there any questions? I summed it all up. That's awesome.
Okay. What's your capacity? Are you at capacity right now, or I know your number varies from time to time?
It does vary, and that's a number that we've kind of been playing with this year because we didn't actually double our staff members. We hired 2 new teachers, so in theory we could take 10 more kids, which would put our capacity to 40. We're at 32 right now, so that leaves us 8 more spots. When I get 8 more kids, then we'll see how crazy that feels.
Pretty much daily communication between Phoenix and the high school.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
Campbell.
because I remember last year the freshmen class especially was wishing that there were a choice for them.
Right.
So have you had that need from them this year?
As far as,
From GRC students that they felt like should be at your school and not at GRC?
that the students themselves have felt that need?
No, the teachers.
Oh, the teachers definitely, yes.
Yeah.
We've had, I would say we could definitely, as much as we can grow, there's a need for
You got
our
folks
facility.
right now that's calling me wanting to do tours, wanting to know, can we go down and tour Phoenix and look at it? We think this would be a better setting.
And we're hoping to-
Those kinds of things, not letting numbers.
Right, and we're
quickly.
hoping to get to the point where we can make it that type of facility. I don't think that we're quite there yet with the staff on hand. Like I said, we're at 32, which was over, our max last year was 30. So the teachers on 2 separate teams are only dealing with about half of what they were, but our counselors are already at old capacity. I'm at old capacity. My instructional assistants, they're dealing with that whole number. So that was one thing we weren't really prepared to compensate for, and we're still trying to juggle kind of how that is going to work, keeping your administrative staff the same number and then expanding the student number.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next but not least is Mr. Loscheider.
How's it going? Thank you. I do want to. I had submitted my rough draft instead of my final. So if you notice some glaring errors in my grammar, it was just rambling thoughts. But I've had them update that for you, and I do apologize for that. I sent an email at 5:30 in the morning. I won't do that again. I'll at least wait till 6 next time. So, wait till
Only 1 cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So,
But I just wanted to start real quick with the 2015 early childhood profile. What makes this a little bit unique is that this was given in to the kindergartners last fall. So these kids are first semester first graders at this point. So sometimes when we're trying to break down this data, we're looking at things that were well in the rearview mirror from that aspect of it. But as you can tell through the hard work of the school board and your vision and insight on going to a full day preschool, you can see that 64.4% of our students are kindergarten ready compared to compared to the state of only 50%. That breaks down to the academic cognitive. We're at 48.8. The state's at 36. Language development, we're at 82. The state's at 72.3. And the physical development's at 52.5. I'm sorry, the county's at 52.5 with the state being at 50.1. That just really just goes to show the support you guys have for the preschool. We talk about it being cutting edge at the high school and the building blocks that they're building at the high school, and it's nice to know that we're bookending it. We're starting at the preschool and we're doing it at the high school too. So, not to say that we're not doing it at the elementary levels and middle school, but just putting that out there. But moving on to the next document, which was guiding those 6 questions that you guys had asked us to look at. And like I said, preschool is a little bit different. When we look at our student achievement data from a state reporting, we don't get to see it until a little bit later down the road, and it's only been done. Those early childhood profiles have only been done for 2 years now. But when asked about the strengths of our building, I'm going to have to say it's the staff. They are one of the hardest groups of people and individuals I've ever been around. They wear that like a badge of honor. What do you need us to do, and we're going to do it. They go absolutely above and beyond. I've asked them to think differently. Before they were kind of out on islands. Through the evolution of the program, they were kind of out on islands at times, and now they get the sense of community, the sense of school, and everything I've asked them to do, they've done it and they exceeded my expectations. I'm truly blessed to be, when you're young and you get an opportunity to be a leader, a lot of times it's at a school that you need to, rally the troops and get turned around, and I have that right there. They're the hardest working staff. I could not have inherited a better staff. The mutual support between us, I really do feel like my teachers know I'm there to advocate for them. And I truly believe that they're out there for me too, and to help and support me. And it's just a great work environment from that aspect. Another strength of the building has been the support from Paul Christie and the entire central office staff. I've called Paul, I've texted Paul, he picks it up right there. Everyone out here, every time I need something personal, a lot of times, but also professionally, they're always there. The other teacher or the other principals at the other schools have been a great support. I feel like everyone's here for me today because everyone's been a huge mentor through this process. So thanks to that too, and just the general school climate has been a strength. They're so excited to be in the building. You know, it's someplace to call home, and they're excited about it. The weaknesses of the building: teacher and parent parking and pedestrian walkways in the back of the building have been a concern. As soon as it was brought to my attention, Mr. Christie came out. It was pouring rain. It was raining cats and dogs, and we're out there with umbrellas trying to figure it out. Donna Stump was out there. Bridget Mann was out there to try to navigate, trying to figure out what's the best plan of action. And we've had those discussions to try to make it safe. What makes it a little bit more difficult is when Hannah McClure was there as an elementary school, because of our ratio of 10 to 1, we have more classified employees, and because of the hand-to-hand transport, parents come into the building and deliver them to the classroom, which is, your parking. So we've got more cars for staff on that lot, and we have more parent parking needs than it was as an original elementary school. Another weakness at times is the staff is in 2 different locations. We are partnered with, I don't want to forget that either, and I'll get to that. We're partnered with Head Start, with the Generation Center, and a lot of that times, being in 2 different locations can be cleared up with better lines of communication from me. And that's something I'm going to be working on to try to be one between those 2 buildings, and that they have a sense of support like the McClure building does. The bathrooms can be a bit of concern for some of the students and the staff. And I think logistically that can be worked out too with where we position offices in the building. I had moved the original principal's office to another side of the room so that it would offer a bathroom for the teachers as well, because right then, if I'm in there, I didn't think a lot of females would like to use the bathroom with me sitting right there in the office. So, and then also also with the students, not having bathrooms inside the classrooms makes it difficult to stay in ratio. One of the things we'll be moving forward with is if we have a predominantly 3-year-old room, we'll make sure that those rooms have bathrooms in it, because they go to the bathroom a lot. It's a lot of toileting, and it's a lot of going back and forth, which sometimes cuts into instructional minutes, and we want to make every minute count at the preschool. But once again, that's just logistical stuff that we will work on moving forward. Teacher workstations was something that I had put down there, but that's another logistics thing. We have a great library, and we need to expand and use that as well. The reason teachers don't have workstations now is because it's children per square footage, and by removing a workstation, we're allowed to incorporate more children into our program. The start time, which kind of parlays into student attendance. This was more of a parent concern with the buses getting there at 7 a.m., which we receive majority of our students on the bus. Those 3-year-olds are on that bus at like 6:10, 6:05, and that can be kind of rough. It's an uphill battle. So what they don't want to do then is, because attendance is not mandated, that they attend. I'm sorry, it is. They have to be 85% of the time they have to be there. But we don't do anything in regards to tardies. If they're there, they're there. So they drop off the elementary, and then they start rolling in at 8:30, and then the instructional day started at 7:30. So that's kind of lost minutes. It's something that maybe proactively in the summer we can kind of try to tackle and see what's the best way from that standpoint.
What is the start time over at Head Start?
At the Generation Center, it's the same time, 7:30.
Do you have the same type of problem, or?
One, it's okay, I don't know.
Sure.
The pieces that we look at, we're so co-joined between our programming. So the strengths that we see within the state funded preschool side and Head Start, it's really, we're looking at apples and apples.
Okay.
Because we have state-funded children in the Generations building, we have History kids in the McClure building. So we do see some of the common challenges as well as strengths.
And I do, and
Does everybody know him?
yeah, that's what I wanted to do, and that's later in the presentation too. This is John Roden, and John was with us in the district in my position 4 years ago. 5 years ago, and John's been extremely supportive. John and I talk. I mean, you got to be putting my cell phone like my 5 so we can start getting 3 minutes, because I talk to him every day on our commute for the whole 45 minutes until I'm all the way into my garage, and then sometimes I walk around the block and I'm still on the phone with John, just troubleshooting and trying to figure out ways we can make this the best. And we told him we want this to be the best blended program. We want people coming from all over going, what are they doing there? Why is it so great? How are they pulling this off? So I just want to thank John publicly for all of his hard work and his contributions. And then going back to, so we're talking about student attendance, establishing policies and procedures for the Clark County preschool is a weakness. The Clark County preschool is like urban legend. It's like folktale. It's been passed down from generation to generation. So when I rolled in there, I just started writing everything down that people were telling me and trying to get a kind of not a manual, but a manual. You know, what are we doing? How do we do it? And that's something that I think is constantly evolving with us being in a building and being feeling more like a school. So that's something that we're still trying to figure out our own norms, or our own school norms. And staffing allocations, we'd love to have related arts. We'd love to broaden the children's horizons with multiple avenues and multiple exposures to curriculum. And then positives from the transition in 2014, 2015, being in a school facility that allows for teachers to feel like a school. There's a greater sense of community that has been established among the students, families, and teachers. And then as it relates to the negatives, from the preschool perspective, I wasn't there last year, but from what I gained from talking to them, the preschool gained from this. They got an opportunity to be in a building.
So how's that a negative?
Saying it's not a
I'm saying it's not a negative. The Clark County preschool has gained from this transition. And I think you have an old report, so I do apologize. But they've gained from this, and they're excited about being in the building. So we don't really see a negative in that 2014-2015 shift last year. And then plans for this school year. These are some of the things that we've already kind of attacked very early on. And what's great about the staff is, that I'll ask him. I go, "Are you venting? You want me to fix it? What are we doing here? Because you may not like how I fix it." And we joke around back and forth. But some of the things that I heard them say, and we acted quickly, was we streamlined the dismissal and arrival procedures to protect instructional time for teachers. Before, parents would just come and go, and they were operating as almost 17 individual schools. Parents and parents would sign their children in and out of the actual classroom and not out of the front office. So if kids were coming and going late, 9:30, 10:30, they were interrupting instruction. When they would drop off in the morning, they would tend to stay a little bit longer, and the instructional day wasn't able to get started promptly at 7:30. So we have tightened that up tremendously. We've increased building security, which is part of that. After 7:30, parents aren't allowed to walk their child to the classroom. Someone in the front office will walk the child to the classroom, just because at that time, to protect confidentiality for the kids, services are being rendered and so forth, and we just want to make sure that we're keeping in a safe environment at all times. And we wanted to mirror that of the elementary schools to make those transitions a little bit easier. There's been an increase in improved communications and collaborations with Head Start and the Clark County Preschool. We've improved communications to parents and other stakeholders. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, and we're on Instagram. We want everyone to know what we're doing and the great things we're doing and the great things that the kids are doing. We've established homeroom parents. We've created professional learning communities. And with that, I also have team leads. And the professional learning communities, they're really taking off. At first, I was like, "Hey guys, all I want you to do is I want you just to meet and I want you to talk about concerns that you're having, and I want you to just meet and take minutes. And then all of a sudden, our next team lead, I gave him some tasks to do, and then take the minutes. And then we continued to grow. Our last team lead meeting, leading into the PLC, we're getting on the same page with curriculum. We're getting curriculum maps aligned for the rest of the year. We're going to have teachers paced together so that every week they can come and they can plan for the next week, and they can share ideas and share in innovative ways. And I think that's taking a little bit of time, but they're excited about it because, like I said, they were on islands before, and now they have a team, and we can be more proactive instead of reactive with some things. We also have shared leadership through teacher committees. We have a Climate Equity and Safety Committee, Curriculum Committee, Public Relations, and Community Involvement Committee, and those meet monthly on one of the Tuesdays every month. We want to things that we want to continue to do moving forward is we want to maintain compliance with state and federal regulations, perform internal audits with the ECHRS and the program review, inventory the current school curriculum, explore preschool specific professional development for teachers, continue to build the school's climate around student achievement, visit other preschools in the surrounding area, increase school spirit and brand marketing, revisit the school's mission statement. I go, guys, what's the vision? What's the mission? And no one knew, but they knew it was somewhere online. And I wanted to get their input. So that's something that we're going to be moving forward, because if I say, hey guys, this is our mission and vision, they're not going to buy into it unless I can get a consensus on it. And then for the 3-year plan, I would like to align with the districts in regards to Lexia and other curriculum initiatives. I want to explore Kagan strategies, which is a professional development. It's a strategy and a way of teaching to engage students. It's very popular in some of our surrounding districts, Woodford County, for instance, and Fayette County as well. I'd also like to seek fundraising opportunities, continue to increase enrollment and awareness of the importance of early childhood education, explore tuition-based rooms. I've called around to some other preschools. They have some tuition-based rooms. I think that would be instrumental in 2 ways. One, it gives an opportunity for people that work here for Clark County Preschool or Clark County Public Schools to bring their children. It also gives the classroom an opportunity for other students to come in and possibly model and peer modeling. And then the other thing is to explore, and then the Universal 4 concept, which was talked about. We've had conversations about that as a dream, and then continue to increase our kindergarten readiness statistics and early childhood profile.
What do you think the demand is for your services? Because I've heard people, I've tried to get my kid into the Clark County preschool, they won't take him, they don't room, he's on the waiting list, blah, blah, blah.
Sure, we do have room, but it all comes down to how they qualify. Do they qualify for a suspected developmental delay, or do they qualify for income means? And then do they qualify under the Head Start regulations, or would they qualify under the state-funded regulations? So sometimes it gets a little tricky on that, and then you also have the special ed timelines and so forth.
So somebody, are you still the person that they need to call?
Yes, so they call the Clark County Preschool and they set up the screenings. Mm-hmm. Right now we can take those 4-year-olds that are income eligible. Those are the ones that we can take right away, and we can have them supply finances. That shows immediate acceptance, and then we're ready to move forward with it. And then with the suspected developmental delay and following those procedures, if someone doesn't qualify under financial means, it's a little bit longer of a process with screening and getting them enrolled.
What is ECHRS?
ECHRS is it's an internal audit. It's a way that you evaluate your program based on your centers, and it's an environmental rating. Do you have a certain amount of inches of mulch in your playground area? How engaging are your centers? How many manipulatives do they have? it kind of evaluates the physical resources of the building.
So is it so I know in the daycares, they have their stars ratings.
Mhm.
So the Eckers, is it comparable to stars or is it a little different? Or?
I'm going to actually deflect a little bit here. John, do you want to kind of touch base on that star rating as it pushes forward and how it relates to Eckers?
The Eckers is for it's the environmental rating scale. It's early childhood environmental rating scale. It's revised edition is what's currently used within the state. It's going to be changing to the Eckers 3, which has more of an instructional basis. So as we're talking about pages for using common language, the Eckers 3 will be tying in for the instruction more as we go through what the teachers actually do. All of our classrooms utilize, that are serving history children, utilize CLASS as well, which is the federal version of PEGS. So that's what we utilize to evaluate the quality of the teaching and learning. STARS ratings, as we know it right now, as far as the child care ratings, it utilizes the information from Eckers as one of the data points.
Okay.
As we move forward into the early childhood race to the top grant that the state has, and going into Kentucky All-Stars, which all districts will be going through that offer preschool funding, Eckers will be within part of that rating scale as well. So it's things that the district is familiar with, and actually the last time we had the formal rating for Eckers within Clark County, I believe that our averages were well over 6, which is classrooms of excellence at that point. There'll be some structural barriers we will need to address, things that are, buildings, we can't move walls and we can't create windows at times, but as far as the instruction environment and stuff, the district was in a sound footing. I believe that they still will be.
And that's something that I'm looking to move forward. Right now, my main focus is on that December 1 count and the state reporting. And I have a giant bulletin board, and the next on the list is Eckers and program review as I tackle that. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. If there's no other business, motion is in order to adjourn.
Just a second,
Okay.
if I don't mind, I can do that. I know we've listened, and I certainly appreciate listening to everybody the 2 days that we had. My question is how do we as a board meet the needs of these principals and schools that they have? Obviously, we've done really well as a district this year. There's a lot of needs out there. People have addressed some of those things. How do we, as a board, make sure that we are doing that? I think I look at what we have financially, and it looks very, very, very good. We have people that have needs, some as simple as computers that don't work well in their classrooms. Some we've heard about needing carpet taken out of a room. I mean, there's some kind of disconnect, as far as I'm concerned, with what's happening there and what's happening here. If those are small needs that we can afford, how do we go about addressing those?
I think in the past, this session has kind of been, okay, we present test reports, and then it's like, okay, what do you want? And, it's like we could grant the magic wish, and here it is. And to me, that in certain years, that was kind of disjointed, okay? There were sometimes that we were doing technology, and sometimes we were doing teacher positions and other things, and it was kind of, okay, give each school what they want, but I'm not sure that was something that was completely focused. Technology is a good example, okay? Here's 50 iPads, here's 75 iPads. Technology, in my mind, needs to be something that is school-wide, district-wide, and part of an overall technology plan that's going to benefit every student in the district. So I think, Mr. Bowling came up with some things that, are kind of one-time and two-time things.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start.
Fantastic.
So,
I just think we need some sort of process that our principals can meet with their staff. I don't think anything, and I know as a principal sometimes I've had people come to me and says, we've got $10,000 for you, what do you want it for? Well, you don't have time to think about it. Obviously, this has been thought out, but if our principals can go back and meet with their staff, come back in here, meet with Mr. Christie, meet with Ms. Considine on academic, what do you need? I mean, it just bothers me if you tell me that there's a teacher with a workstation that's not functioning to the capability that they need it to be. I mean, there's something wrong with that when we have the finances that we have. And I want to make sure that can be streamlined. and then we get that taken care of. You know, I've heard, time after time, one of the comments today was, funding's one of our biggest issues. We spend this much money on copiers, so we don't have this much money for that. If it's something as simple as paying for copiers, let's pay for copiers. I mean, goodness gracious, guys, we have got the money here. I mean, we're looking at what, 18, 19% contingency right now? I mean, any district in this state would break their legs to have that. And we should not have a situation here to where there are needs there and we're sitting on top of this. There's just no way. This money belongs out there.
You will start seeing as early as the next board meeting, you're going to start seeing some requests come in that we're now meeting with principals and we're asking these and we're talking about these things. You're going to start seeing individual building needs coming in on that's going to need to be addressed by general fund and not by a particular safe schools or Title I or Title II. We're talking general fund needs. So you're going to start to see that as early as next Tuesday night.
Are the high school requests on there?
Not these yet, no. Not
Okay,
these.
but we can add them.
We'll certainly now, Mr. Bowman and I will sit down and we'll start talking about these things.
But it just bothers me that there's some sort of, I don't know whether it's a fear of people asking or people think that there's not money that they can't ask, but how we let a teacher's computer get out of date to where it does not function well enough in the classroom, to me, guys, so that's just shame on us, guys. I'm just telling you, that really is. We can't allow that to happen. Now, if the teacher hasn't reported it, then that's a teacher's fault. If the principal hasn't reported it to you, then that's a principal's. If you haven't brought it, Ms. Considine hasn't brought it to us, then that's your fault. But we're sitting here and we have the capabilities to provide a great deal of funding for these schools. And I look at things, I don't see anything on the high school's list that we can't do. I don't see anything on there from what I can see right now. And I know that I'm new to the budget process, but I know what it's like to have $1.5 million and not be able to spend the money in the district, and when I can look and see how much money we have right now. I know where that comes from. And we don't need to be a situation where somebody comes in here next year, well, we wanted to do this, but we couldn't do this. Somebody said that they couldn't do a program again this year. They were talking about the writing program. Couldn't do it because they couldn't afford the copies where it is right now. We've got a strong writing program, but we can't continue the writing program because we can't afford the copies. That's unacceptable as far as I'm concerned.
From my standpoint, I would say if people and principals and buildings need things, first thing you need to do is ask. So ask Mr. Christie, and then it needs to come through us. So that would be the first thing. Second thing, I would say one-time items. We usually are pretty generous with those. Something that's going to have recurring cost, that's going to be looked at year after year. That's going to be something the board's going to look at a lot more stringently. And questions are going to come up that say, okay, all right, I need an interventionist, I need 2 interventionists, I need 2 teachers in my school full-time just to do RTI for reading and math. Let's say that's an example, okay? If that's a one-time thing, fine, but if that's a recurrent thing, we're going to look at the effect on the budget year after year of that, okay? You can dip into your contingency and you can pay that for a certain number of years, but after that, once you've gone through your contingency, if your expenses are over what you're bringing in, there's going to be a problem at that point. So I think if you've got something that's a recurring expense, I'm fine bringing that to us, but that's going to be something that we're going to look at more closely. The other thing that I would, as a board chair, would ask is say, listen, all right, these things, all right, you asked me for 100-day teachers, or you asked me for interventionists, you asked me for other things. You asked me for that last year or the year before. Can you tell me how that's positively affected your school? Okay, and how did this make your school a better place? How did this increase student learning, and how did this make your students better people? Okay, because that's what we're here to do. So those would be the kinds of things I would look at as board chair.
I would go back to, and I'll have conversations with principals, but I think each of these principals would tell you that we have more interventionists in place in every one of the buildings now than we've had in the past. We're at the highest number that we've ever had. We're growing into it now. We're starting to see the benefits from these things. We had a huge change in the way Title I money has been spent. We've gone to interventionists. Instead of just hiring additional teachers, we're seeing the benefits that that's bringing. So that's why I think you're starting to hear principals talk about more interventionists, leaving those classroom teachers alone and getting the interventionists to work with us. That's why you're starting to see more of those, because it is working. And it's been a change that we've done. So We'll continue to look at that, and the changes that we've made up to this point have been through the Title I funding and the other means of funding we have in the buildings, utilizing that first. Now, we have the data that says this works, so now we're ready to move forward, and we'll try to grow on that. Some of these things, I will tell you that I'll sit down, and I think every principal will tell you, I'll sit down and listen to their needs at any time, of what they need, and we talk and try to address their needs. We try to figure a way first to work with it within the budgets that I'm allowed to work without dipping into general funds. Now, some of these things, when you start talking $12,000, $15,000 for sophomore, administering the ACT, these are things that we're going to have to look to general fund to do these things. So, and I'm fine with that, and we'll certainly bring those up. You're going to see some things. Probably won't see it on the November, the band coming in. We've had conversations with the band in the past. I met with the band instructor. We've got some related arts things there that we're needing to talk about there. You're going to see that on next month's agenda. So there's starting to be some things that's going to start filtering their way in. That over in 3 years, I've exhausted the funds that I have access to here without coming to you with a lot of things. We've tried to meet the needs of the principals, and as those needs grow, we're going to have to start looking for some additional help.
Well, anything we can do to take any kind of frustration out of the classroom, we need to do it. And any kind of program, that if we have a program that's working, it needs to keep right on working. And we need to make sure that we put that, as long as we've got the value. And that'd be different if we were sitting here struggling for money, but looks like to me, from what I can see, in the last 4 or 5 years, we put surplus money at the end of the year. We've had money left over at the end of the year that we're putting back in. We have the ability to do it, and it does need to be a well thought out plan. Like I said, Mr. Boland has a very good plan right here, and I think everybody else could do the same thing. It's not, I did things, I've seen teachers buy books and keep them on a shelf before, and that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for that impact that we have. And I agree with Dr. Kudak right there. To whom much is given, much is hoped received back. I mean, that's what we want. I mean, we want to make sure that we do that. But if that's a point that they're struggling with, and that's something that they have to have, then we're not doing justice to our taxpayers, to our teachers, to our students, to anybody, because we have the capability, the financial capabilities to do it. I mean, I don't know of any other thing that we're saving this money for, is it? I mean, but we have the money. I mean, it's not here to sit here. You don't become a good district because you're stronger financially than everybody else. You can do it because you've got a high school that's a school of distinction, and you got a district.
That's part of it, though, Mr. Peridot.
We're able
to fund a large AP program. Initially, there was a 2-year grant for that, and I think the board really saw 3-year grant.
And
The
then
board
we've done it for 3 years.
Right.
I think that's fantastic.
The board saw the
I think
positive in that.
great.
That's something that's going to be in the budget moving forward, and will be, as long as that program continues to be positive. So, but the thing is, we had good fiscal management, which allowed us to have the reserve to do that.
Exactly. But to me, good physical management of schools is not putting a surplus in the bank every year. That's not what I call it. To me, every tax dollar that you get that's feasibly can be spent on these students and these classrooms needs to be spent there. That's what we do. I mean, when we sit here and we raise the taxes of people, and if we raise the taxes of people this year, and then next year we put another $1 million back in our contingency, that's not being good public servants. We have got to be able to put the money back to our students.
And part of, we went through a period of 3 or 4 years every year when SEEK funding got cut in the spring. So, if you're spending your contingency down to, minimum, and then those cuts come, and I think that makes some of us a little wary. I'm not saying that we need the contingency that we have, and there have been some discussions that when we do these building projects, we still don't know how the building projects are coming in. And while most of that comes from the building fund, if it comes up to where we could do a preschool and a gym by taking some contingency money out to meet the rest of what we need to get both of those projects done, I would be in favor of that too. But, instruction in the classroom every day, top priority, yes. But with, the other things, when you don't know what might happen to SEEK, and you don't know what our funding is going to be because we don't know how much these projects are going to cost, kind of.
I certainly understand being leery, but as we are way past where we can be in a comfort zone, way past a comfort zone. I don't know how many districts in the state have more than a 10% contingency. I mean, not very many that I would think of.
It's on KDE's website. My computer's down.
We're at 18, 19. And we have people that have needs. Now, if we didn't have anybody have needs, we could put all we want to into it. But we have people out here that are saying, I need a computer in my classroom. I need a carpet taken out of here. I need to pay for my copiers. I mean, that's what bothers me. And I understand, and Ms. Hicks was on the board when we had nothing basically and had to come through that. And I appreciate
Financial watch list.
the financial frugality that we did through all that time to be right here. And I'm glad I'm here now instead of when you were here at that time, because of course I was on the other end of this when I was asking and they were saying, you ain't getting nothing. So I know how that is. So, but I'm just saying that financially, guys, we have got it. There's no reason for these people to come up here and say that financials are a big problem within our school. We need to fix that. And if it's a communication problem between teacher, principal, Considine, Christie, then we need to make sure that we get that done right there.
Okay.
Again, I would say to the principals that are here tonight, I hope that nobody's sitting in this room with unmet needs right now that we haven't talked about and we haven't tried to work with you in some way. Haven't paid your copiers yet, but that's,
Christmas is still around the corner. Yeah.
So, but I think the principals will tell you that we will work with them. Some of this is new stuff. We're just going to sit down and start talking about this, and we'll work through some of this. I think some of these things come because at this particular point in the year, this has been in the past, been one of those meetings where the last question asked, what do you need? Right. And that's why we're seeing some of these lists. I'm seeing some of these lists for the first time too.
But I know what it's like to be a principal, and as a principal, for some reason, you're conditioned all your time. But I don't know if I can ask for that or not. So I mean, that's what you get into, and you learn how to manage your school on a budget. And these principals that have talked about, our copies are this much. They know what their copiers are. They know what that cost is going in, so they know. Well, I can do this much here, and I can do this much here, and I can do this much here. It's let's get this district moving. Let's keep going forward right here. Let's don't stalemate because of money.
The other thing is, I think it's important for us to, if you're sitting in this seat now, you're responsible for the district as a whole. In your previous position, you're responsible for one school. And yes, we sat down and we listened to everybody's presentation, and we sat and we did a lot of analysis and a lot of thinking and those sorts of things. And from my standpoint here, I have to make the decision what's best for the district as a whole. Okay, we don't have unlimited resources. We have some schools with more needs than others right now. And I've got to say, okay, I've got to do what's going to be best for the total number of kids in the district. So, I mean, that's when you sit in this seat, that's to me, that's the guiding thing for making my decision. So, if something comes up, and I have to think about it. So, but no, I think your point is well taken, and I would encourage principals to filter requests to Mr. Christie, and those will find their way onto the agenda that we can vote on and discuss. So. And like I said, to the principals out there right now, I agree the contingency is pretty healthy right now. One-time requests would probably be granted if they are reasonable, but something that's going to have some sort of recurrent, year after year thing is something this board is going to look at very seriously, because that's how we got ourselves into trouble before. And you start to extend yourself on recurring expenses year after year, it's easy to get yourself in trouble doing that. So that's something that we'll look at very, very strongly.
So another thing that we've worked hard on in the last 3 years has been to work in these buildings, these facilities, getting them up to speed, getting the energy conservation things in place, and that's where we're starting to see some of this money coming up at the end of the year. So we're saving lots of money.
Right.
We're still putting the money. I mean, we spent last year $1.5 million in curriculum in the last 2 years. Right. So we're putting the money, but we're working in other ways to build that up so that we can put it into the classroom.
We're going to have technology needs in this district. We have them now, so.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I see everyday fundraisers come through here every time where people are raising money for technology.
We have an entire school that's going to be one-to-one computers. I guess the question for me as the board chair is, is this going to really improve the quality of education these kids are receiving. So that's what I want to see. So that's a big dollar and time and person investment. So,
Exactly.
I want to make sure that's paying off. So, okay. Any other comments? All right. If not, a motion is in order to adjourn. Motion by Ms. Ritchie.
Second.
Second by Dr. Griffith. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We're adjourned at 8:35.
I won't look at it.